A journey through time, a lesson in living. The story of a man who tried to skip the struggles, only to realize life's true beauty lies in every fleeting moment, every missed hug, every shared laugh, until he was given one last chance to cherish what he almost lost forever. Michael Newman lived in a relentless rhythm of urgency. Every morning began in chaos, a blur of alarm clocks, briefcases, misplaced keys, barking dogs, and impatient honks echoing from his driveway. He was a man perpetually at war with time. As an overworked architect with dreams of becoming a partner at his firm, he was constantly juggling deadlines, meetings, and expectations. He promised himself and his family that it would all be worth it. That once he earned the next promotion, things would settle, vacations would happen, weekends would return. His family would get the version of him they deserved. But time refused to wait. His days began before dawn and ended well past dinner, his presence at home more symbolic than actual. He missed dance recitals and backyard games, bedtimes and weekend getaways. His wife Donna carried the weight of their home life with quiet strength, tending to their children Ben and Samantha with patience. She offered understanding, but the distance was growing. Michael's excuses became routine. His family loved him, but their eyes slowly began to mirror the absence they were adjusting to. Every success at work came with a cost at home. As Michael climbed higher at the firm, the air grew thinner, and so did his connection to those who mattered most. He envied the very calm he was too busy to enjoy. On some nights, he would pause for a breath in his car, parked outside his house, watching his family through the window, feeling like a guest in a life that was supposed to be his. Inside, laughter and warmth lived without him. Outside, he was a ghost wrapped in responsibility. Frustration began to set in not just at the pressure, but at the structure of life itself. Everything seemed to take too long. Meals dragged, traffic stalled, meetings repeated themselves. He grew irritated by the everyday inconveniences that slowed his pursuit. He wished more than once that he could just fast forward through the noise and reach the parts of life that truly mattered. Little did he know that fate was listening. One evening, after a particularly long and chaotic day, Michael sought a universal remote to simplify the clutter in his house. One device to control the television, stereo, garage door, ceiling fans, and anything else that blinked. His search took him to a strange store, tucked away in a forgotten corridor of a retail plaza. The store didn't resemble anything he had seen before. It was sterile and still, illuminated by an unnatural white glow. There, amidst peculiar gadgets, he was handed a sleek, futuristic remote control unlike any other. It pulsed faintly in his hand, cool and weighty, as though infused with something more than technology. At home, Michael discovered that this remote didn't just control devices, it controlled reality. With the press of a button, he could pause time entirely. Arguments froze mid-sentence. The neighbor's dog stopped barking mid-howl. Traffic ceased. With another click, he could mute annoying sounds, rewind moments he missed, and even relive memories. But most enticing was the fast-forward function. He could jump past the dull parts, skip over illnesses, bypass arguments, and speed through workdays. For the first time in his life, he had dominion over time itself. At first, he used the remote with curiosity. He paused an awkward conversation and took a moment to breathe. He fast-forwarded through a late-night work session and woke up refreshed. He skipped a long traffic jam and arrived on time. The power was exhilarating. Life's obstacles became mere inconveniences that could be erased. He began using the remote more freely, relying on it as a shortcut to convenience and comfort. But something strange happened. The remote began learning from him. It memorized his preferences, adapting to his patterns. Moments he skipped once began to skip automatically. Annoying coworkers were silenced without prompting. Lengthy tasks compressed themselves. The remote wasn't just following commands, it was rewriting his experience of time. Before long, Michael started noticing the consequences. He would zone out during a routine activity and snap back to find himself months ahead. Time slipped through his fingers like sand. What began as skipping over colds and lectures now leapt across entire seasons. His kids were older than he remembered. His body showed signs of time passed in his absence, gray hairs, weight gain, and a stiff back. His surroundings evolved without him. Donna had grown distant. Their intimacy had faded into routine politeness. He noticed photos on the wall from events he didn't recall attending. The milestones kept passing. He stood in awe at a version of himself that had advanced in his career far beyond what he expected. He was now a partner at the firm, highly respected and financially secure. But the personal cost was growing. He had no memory of the parties thrown in his honor. His children were now adolescents. Ben no longer showed him science projects. Samantha no longer asked him to tuck her in. They still loved him, but from afar. They had learned to live without him. Each fast-forward became more dangerous. His body aged, reacting to skip time with no physical memory of rest or exertion. He experienced the effects of years lived without actually living them. His emotional compass dulled. His reactions were delayed. He became a man lost inside his own life, appearing in fragments, catching only glimpses of what once was. He tried to stop using the remote, but its programming now overrode his intent. It activated on its own, anticipating stress and discomfort, shielding him from inconvenience but robbing him of experience. Life became a blur of transitions. His children leaving for college, his promotion to CEO, and his father's funeral. Each moment passed with the mechanical sweep of a forward arrow, leaving Michael in a daze of half-experienced grief, joy, and confusion. The pace accelerated. The future came barreling forward. His marriage crumbled, not in a single catastrophic moment, but in a series of missed chances and emotional absences. Donna had waited for him to return not from work, but from the shell he had become. When he didn't, she moved on. In one moment, he saw her leave. In the next, he watched her smile with another man. Michael tried to rewind, but the remote denied him. It would only replay memories, not change them. He was now a spectator in his own story. He watched his children grow into adults, successful and kind, but distant. Ben had taken a job in a corporate firm, echoing his father's path. Samantha, once bright-eyed and artistic, is now rarely called. Eventually, Michael found himself alone in a sterile, white hospital room. His body, ravaged by years of stress and neglect, lay weak beneath sheets. Machines beeped rhythmically, the only sound in a room that had known too much silence. Outside, the world went on, unaware of the man inside who had once dreamed of mastering it. The irony settled in. He had gained control over time, yet lost control over his life. He had tried to skip to the best parts, only to realize that the best parts were hidden in the moments he chose to skip. The messy dinners, the school projects, and the quiet nights on the couch. In his effort to conquer time, he had erased his story. As his breath grew shallow and the monitors clicked in steady decline, his son arrived. A grown man now, successful and composed, Ben sat by his father's side. Michael, barely conscious, looked into his eyes and saw himself. He saw the pressure, the ambition, and the echo of mistakes waiting to be made again. In that fleeting moment, Michael found the strength to reach out and share the one lesson that mattered: the value of presence. Not career, not wealth, but time truly lived. And then the monitors fell silent. As the beeping monitors faded into silence and Michael's world dimmed to black, a strange sensation began to pull him upward, soft and gradual, as though floating through water. His body felt weightless, and time itself seemed to unravel. A deep stillness filled him, unfamiliar yet comforting. For a moment, it was unclear whether this was death or something beyond it. Then suddenly, the world around him shifted. He gasped, his eyes wide with recognition. He was back in his own bed. The thunder outside rolled just like it had on that night long ago. The television flickered quietly in the corner. His heart pounded not from weakness but from astonishment. His body, once frail and scarred by time, now felt restored, young, healthy, and whole. His hands bore no trace of the years skipped. The skin was smooth again. The weight was gone. The gray had vanished from his hair. It was as though the years he had lived through, or rather bypassed, had never occurred. The room was familiar. So were the sounds. Donna was still there, asleep beside him. His children were still young, asleep in their rooms, their doors slightly ajar in case they needed him in the night. Time had been reversed, not just paused. Somehow the future he had witnessed had unraveled, offering him a second chance. The remote was gone. There were no blinking lights on the nightstand, no strange symbols or buttons, and no shortcuts waiting to be abused. In its absence, Michael felt both fear and relief. He sat up, his breath steadying. This was not a dream. It was an awakening. Everything he had seen, his children aging, his marriage fading, his life accelerating into emptiness, had been a glimpse, a warning etched into his soul. And now he has returned to the start. But this time, he moved differently. He no longer rushed through mornings. He let the dog bark. He listened to the chaos. He embraced the interruptions. When breakfast took too long, he smiled. When his son spilled orange juice on his paperwork, he didn't groan. He took moments he once skipped and lingered in them. He noticed the way Donna tilted her head when she laughed, the little freckles beneath Samantha's eyes, and the way Ben's shoelaces always came undone. At work, he no longer competed with the clock. He didn't fight for every inch of his promotion. He worked hard but left on time. He declined unnecessary meetings. He made space for breathing, thinking, and being present. His boss, surprised at first, eventually respected the change. His performance didn't drop. With less panic and more balance, Michael's mind was clearer. He could think creatively again. He no longer needed shortcuts. He remembered how to live in time, not race against it. He returned home earlier. He attended recitals, no longer through recordings but in person, in the front row. He helped with science projects, got paint on his sleeves, and stood in line for school plays. He was there, in all the tiny details. When his children cried, he held them. When they laughed, he joined in. He didn't need a mute button anymore. He welcomed the noise. Donna noticed the change. Her gaze softened. Her voice carried less worry. They found each other again in small rituals. The way they made tea together before bed and the quiet conversations on the porch after the kids were asleep. Their love rekindled not through grand gestures, but through consistent presence. He made fewer promises but kept more of them. He no longer told her he was doing it all for the family. He showed her with every hour he gave back. As the years moved forward genuinely, not artificially, Michael witnessed the life he had once missed unfold in full color. He aged slowly and with grace. His body began to reflect the years lived rather than skipped, each wrinkle a memory instead of a consequence. He saw Ben blossom into a thoughtful teenager, curious and kind, and Samantha grow into a young woman with wild dreams and a fearless heart. This time, he didn't watch it happen from a distance. He lived it. When his father grew ill, Michael didn't fast forward through the suffering. He sat beside him in the hospital, holding his hand through the long, painful days. They spoke, they laughed, and they remembered. He didn't shy away from the sadness. He let himself feel it fully. When the end came, it was real. It hurt, but it was honest. He cried openly at the funeral. He mourned not just a loss, but the years he had once skipped over, the ones he had taken for granted. But now, he had those memories. They weren't empty placeholders. They were full. With age came clarity. He taught his children not through lectures, but through example. He showed them how to savor life's ordinary moments. He encouraged them to make time for their passions, not just their paychecks. He urged them not to chase time, but to walk with it. Years passed naturally. His body began to slow. His hair grayed, his joints ached, but his heart remained light. He no longer feared aging. It meant he had lived. The milestones came gradually, each one savored. He watched Ben graduate, then marry. He walked Samantha down the aisle. He cradled his first grandchild with trembling hands, tears in his eyes not from regret, but from fullness. He had lived to see it all, and he had lived it all well. He and Donna grew older together. Their love no longer burned with youthful fire, but it glowed, steady and enduring. They took slow walks, told old stories, and laughed over shared memories. They had built a life not through shortcuts, but through patience. One quiet night, long after the house had emptied, Michael sat alone on the porch, a blanket across his legs. The wind was cool, the sky clear. He listened to the rustling trees, the distant hum of the world continuing on. He thought of the man he had once been, the man who tried to control time and lost everything. He thought of the remote, the visions, and the pain. And then he thought of the chance he had been given. He didn't know why it had happened. Whether it was fate or grace or some cosmic intervention, it no longer mattered. He had received the rarest of gifts, not more time, but a second chance to honor the time he already had. He had learned that life wasn't something to be optimized. It wasn't a problem to be solved or a finish line to be reached. It was a string of imperfect, fleeting, irreplaceable moments. As the sun dipped behind the trees, Michael closed his eyes and breathed in slowly. The air smelled of pine and memory. He felt no need to rewind or fast forward. For once, everything was exactly as it should be. And in that stillness, surrounded by the echoes of a life truly lived, he smiled.